Christmas. Oh man, it's so good to have you here, and I know all the folks joining us online near and far, all around the world. What a great day. What an exciting day. What a holy night. I actually want to talk about this song. I'm going to use that kind of as my little message tonight, the jumping off point. I know some of you, this is probably your favorite Christmas song, this Oh Holy Night. And to you, I have to apologize because I used to really not even like this song. And you say, what? Well, in my defense, I never really actually listened to it all the way through. You know, it was just too slow. I would hear it, the 24-hour Christmas music radio station. It'd come on the radio, and I don't listen to that. And I'd change the channel. Until, and I'm guessing maybe 10 years ago, it was not later in life, I figured this out. I was driving to church. I was in Chattanooga. It was a December night, and the song came on the radio. I said, yeah, I'm just going to listen to it. Oh, my goodness. I don't know if some of you, but the first time I heard it, halfway through the song, I had goosebumps on my arms. And by the end of the song, my eyes were, tough guys don't cry, but our eyes sweat sometimes. My eyes were sweating at the end of the song. It's so moving, so moving. Well, I want to tell you a little bit of history about this song. I think it's interesting, and then I'm going to kind of dive into what I want to talk about regarding it. I'm not being able to click here. Somebody click the window on the computer. We'll get it. All right. Here we have the authors. So in the mid-1800s is when the song was written. There was a French priest, Catholic priest, who went into town and he wanted to have this guy write a poem based on Luke chapter 2, the Christmas story. And this was Placide Cappeau. Cappeau actually was not a Christian. Not only was he not a Christian, he was kind of known in town as a real hellraiser. And so this is the guy, but he was a good poet. So the priest asked him to write this poem. And so Placide, he writes this poem, and he loves it so much, he takes it to his friend, Adam, who's also not a Christian, Adolf Adam, and he puts the music to turn this poem into this beautiful song. Well, of course, it took off. I mean, by the next Christmas even, churches, all the Catholic churches, other churches all over France, it's going, a few years go by, and it's just going everywhere, everybody's singing it, and then finally somebody figures out who wrote the song. And the officials were like, no, we got to shut this song down now, cut this. It was too late, way too late. It was massively popular, just like it is still today. About 5 decades later, I think this is kind of interesting too, it was a Canadian-born American. He was a professor. He was kind of inventor, scientist kind of guy. He was 33 years old, 1906, and he did what many people thought was impossible. He kind of it's almost like his own garage, this kind of makeshift generator for electricity. He plugged his microphone in, and he broadcast the very first AM radio transmission. And it was Christmas Eve, 1906. So he turns his microphone on, begins the very first broadcast, and he reads Luke chapter 2. He reads the Christmas story. It came to pass in those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree, all the world should be taxed, and the whole story. And then he picks up his violin, and he plays this, the very first song broadcast over the airwaves in the whole world, O Holy Night. Isn't that interesting? So the song evokes a lot of strong emotions, and this whole idea of a holy night. If you have a manger scene in your home, you probably, same kind of thing, it evokes emotion. I know for me it definitely does, because when I was a kid, it was kind of my job to put our little manger scene together. It was really special to me, maybe just because it meant it was Christmas time, but I've had the fireplace mantle, you put the stable, and then you put all the pieces in there. You got baby Jesus, you got Joseph and Mary, you got the cows that are lowing, whatever that is. I still don't know what is lowing. I don't know, but the cow, that's what they were doing. They were lowing. And it's just this emotional scene, and it's just so peaceful, this picturesque. And as beautiful as our creches are, I wonder if they're doing a bit of a disservice for us in really, realizing what the people were actually going through on that first, what we call a holy night. Because if you remember, Mary, teenager, she's pregnant. Joseph, her fiance, they're traveling to the hometown for the census. It was about a 100-mile journey. Now, you remember, 9 months pregnant, riding on a donkey for 100 miles. You get to your hometown, and there is no place to stay. You go to it was like a cave. It was where all the animals were, like a stable. And has anybody been in the room when a baby was delivered before? I have. Now, granted, I had the easier job, obviously, but it was not a quiet, peaceful scene. It's chaos. I mean, people are screaming, people are running in and out of the room. You just don't know what's going on. This was the scene in this stable on the first holy night. What I really want to zero in on is this verse right here in the song. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Can you say weary world with me? Weary world. If there is one word I had to pick to describe our world today, I think it would be weary. Anxiety is through the roof. You have a hot war in Europe. Who thought we'd live to see that again? The Middle East is on fire. Geopolitical chaos, madness, societal, what do you want to say? Infighting. Gets into families, into relationships, friendships, even marriages. And then, gosh, it seems like almost every third person I know has a very serious disease they're struggling with. This is just, it's overwhelming. The economy, there are many families struggling. And it's like we're just trying to keep our head above water. Weary. And yet, what the Christmas story tells us, what this song tells us, is that in the midst of this weary world, we have a thrill of hope. We have a thrill of hope because of this baby. What could that possibly mean? What difference could that possibly make? If any of you have a weary world right now, my prayer for you tonight is that you experience the thrill of hope. Let's go back to the Old Testament. This is 500 years before Jesus was ever born. God sends the prophet Jeremiah to talk to his people. The people of Israel have been conquered. Jerusalem has fallen. They are subjugated. They are captive. They are depressed, dismayed. They are just done. And Jeremiah writes this. It's called lamentation. It's hurting. He shares the hurt with the people. He says, I well remember them. My soul is downcast within me. Now, here's what he's saying about the weary world that they're living in at the time. He's saying, I'm well aware of it. He is not covering his eyes. La, 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 it's not happening, it's not happening, it's not happening. He says, yes, I acknowledge there is some wearying, there are some life-altering difficulties that we are facing right now, and my soul is downcast in me. But, he says, this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. This I call to mind. It's in there somewhere, but it's not in the front of my mind. I need to put this in the front of my mind in order for me to have hope. What does he need to put in the front of his mind? Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. It's getting hot. We're surrounded. It feels like it's overwhelming, but because of God's love, we will not be defeated, We will not be killed. We will not be consumed. Why? Because compassions never fail. They are new every morning, a new and glorious morn. The next verse. He gets so excited. He's talking about God. He's telling us about God. He gets so into it, he has to talk to God. And he just breaks out, God, great is your faithfulness, even in the midst of these hard times. And then he says, I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. What I hope you can do tonight is go with 3 thoughts that you can hang on to here. Jesus is born on this holy night into the weary world. And these are 3 things that you can absolutely expect because of the presence of Jesus Christ here in our world, here in your life now, because it changes everything. Number 1, a new day with Christ brings exactly what you need. Now, I didn't say what you want. What you need and what you want can sometimes be very different. But God will give you exactly what you need. Jeremiah said, I say to myself. Have you ever had to have a conversation with yourself before? Hey, snap out of it, buddy. You're getting too down. You're getting too angry. Right? Sometimes you got to be the best preacher around just for yourself. And you call to mind, right, the promises of God. They're somewhere up there. You put them in the forefront of your mind. And you say, the Lord is my portion. What is he talking about? He's referring back to when the Israelites were wandering in the desert. And God had to provide for them heavenly manna. Every morning when they woke up, they had 1 day's worth of food to eat. And they couldn't save it. They couldn't store it. If they tried to hoard it, it would just rot. And God was trying to teach them. He wants to teach us. We need God every day. He is our portion. He gives us exactly what we need each and every day. Now, that could be in relationships. You may say, my marriage is just it's a mess right now. I'm stressed out about it. I'm struggling. We're going through this. God is exactly what your marriage needs. You could be sick in body, or your loved one is sick in their body. God can heal. He may not heal the way you want him to, but he is your life and your joy. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, God is exactly what you need. He is the lifter of your head. He provides for us. A new day with Christ. It brings exactly what we need, and it brings us the hope to keep going. Now, I don't know how accurate this is. I don't even know who to attribute the quote to, but it's got to be true philosophically at least. And that is, a person can live about 40 days, give or take, about 40 days without food. A person can live about 8 days without water. A person can live about 4 minutes without oxygen. A person can live only a few seconds without hope. And what I see in my neighbors, so many people in the society at large, people who are living a hope-deprived life. And it's because the Lord is good to those whose hope is in him. The problem is people are putting their hope in the wrong places. They put their hope in, well, you know better than to put your hope in the economy, right? They can go up and down. Some people may put their hope in their company, but the company has layoffs before the end of the year. You may put your hope in another person, but another person may not come through for you. You put your hope in yourself. I know I've failed other people. I've certainly failed myself. You put your hope in this certain situation. You want this exact outcome to happen just the way you need it to happen, but then it doesn't. And when we put our hope in the wrong things, what we end up with is hopeless. We can't live that way. A new day with Christ brings us the hope to keep on going. And then the third point, a new day with Christ brings the help that you are seeking. The help that you are seeking. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Now, for some people, that salvation might be very literal in the sense saving from our sins, our separation from God, the gift that God has given us in Jesus Christ to forgive all of our sins, to make us right with our Creator again, which allows us to have right relationships with each other, being able to receive and give that free forgiveness. Some of us have already been born into the family of God, and you need salvation from the darkness that you're in right now. The weary world. But there's a morning coming. Now look, one day with Christ. Let me tell you how much difference just one day with Christ can make. Number one, you could ask somebody named Lazarus. Lazarus had been dead for 4 years. 4 years. That would have been a good one too. 4 days. He was dead for 4 days, right? 4 days. He was dead for a long time, at least long enough that he started to smell bad, because the King James Version of the Bible translates it. It said, he stinketh. What a great word. And you know you're dead when you stinketh. 4 days, everybody had given up hope. When Jesus comes to the funeral, to the family, and he looks into the grave, and he says, Lazarus, get up, buddy. Come forth. And Lazarus walks out of his own grave. Lazarus would tell you, it's incredible what can happen with just one day with Christ in your life. You can ask the woman who, for 12 years, suffered an issue of blood. You can imagine the embarrassment. You can imagine the pain. You can imagine that every single day, am I going to be healed? Am I stuck with this for the rest of my life? What is going on? And one day, Jesus walks by, and she reaches out, and she touches the hem of his garment, and she's healed. She'll tell you, it's incredible, the difference that just one day with Christ will make in your life. There was a man by the pool of Bethesda. He had not been able to walk for 38 years. Since the day he was born, he was unable to walk. And one day, Jesus comes up to him and just says, pick up your mat and walk. And he stood up. And the first time in his life, he walked. This man would tell you, it's unbelievable. It's indescribable what just one day with Christ will do for your life. So whether you are in the darkness of the weary world, whatever that darkness may look like for you, externally or internally, whatever you might be possibly struggling with, there is hope. When the night ends, the morning dawns. In the chaos of that stable, that delivery room where Jesus was born, it was weary, man. It was out of control. It was overwhelming. But a new and glorious morn awakes. I want to leave you with this verse in Romans chapter 12. There it is. The hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. It's always darkest before the dawn. There's a thrill of hope because the sun always rises in the morning. It always rises. The Son of God has risen. The Son of God has come to be one with us, to take on all of our sin, to take it away from us, to heal us, to forgive us, to renew us, to restore us with our relationships with God and each other. It is a thrill to celebrate this holy night and to realize that because Jesus came into our weary world, we have a thrill of hope. For yonder breaks, what? A new and glorious morning. Amen. All right, I invite you to stand for our closing song. Let's have a quick prayer here to